Welcome back. I had a request from a wonderful student of mine. He said, would you talk more about Kriya Yoga, about Lahiri Mashai? Would you put that more into your channel? And so we're going to take what I presented in the last episode, which was about creating sensitivity using sensory acuity from NLP, and we're going to integrate it with Kriya Yoga and Lahiri Mashai and what he taught his students, which was surprising to his students. I've mentioned this before, but I want to bring it all together. And I also want to talk about being perfect and how that can be a mistake and how to really take things which are deep inside the psychology, how to slowly bring them out where we can manage them. So let's get into all of that right now. So in the last episode, I talked about how learning sensory acuity can be very good. And it's actually a natural process that will happen for the yogi. The yoga that you do, whether it's mindfulness of your breath, whether it's heart rate variability, breathing, which will create mindfulness of your breath automatically. It will also sink you down into some of the slower brain waves, the alpha, the theta, the delta. Those brain waves will become apparent automatically from doing the heart rate variability resonant breathing. So you're already slowing down. And by slowing down, we begin to integrate with the subconscious material because we're at a slower rate. And so we have more capacity to notice what is going on. And so we're automatically becoming more and more sensitive through our practice of heart rate variability breathing or Kriya Yoga, which should have heart rate variability in it. Heart rate variability resonance. It should be in your Kriya. And so that's why I have this video. It's called HRV Resonance Informs Kriya Yoga. Because if you don't have that resonance and you're doing Kriya Yoga or you're doing mindfulness of your breath and that resonance is not there, well, then you're still waiting for the real meditation. You're still waiting to get into what is actually supposed to take place in your breath and in your heart, which is resonance. That's the very first thing that has to happen. If it's not happening, the rest of the meditation will automatically be a wash. And so you'll wonder, why do sometimes my meditation is like rocket science, it's fantastic, and sometimes it's a wash. Why is that? Well, the difference is the resonance. Am I in resonance or am I not in resonance? So when you're not, it's not going to work correctly. So very interestingly, Lahiri Mashai did not teach the do's and don'ts of yoga. So Ashtanga, which means eight, the 8 limbs of yoga, always traditionally start out with yama niyama. And some yogis will condense that down to 6. And Lahiri Mashai was one of these yogis. And this was very surprising because he was a very good person. And his students came to him and said, why are you not teaching yama niyama? And he said, because it will slow my students down. And the Kriya should be giving them that sensitivity automatically. And I don't want to slow my students down. I just want them to be good in a general way. And, that sensitivity will unfold from inside of them. And that will allow them to be a better and better person automatically, rather than following rules from a left brain perspective. There's value in that, right? There's value from watching what we do and how we do it from a left brain perspective, learning good rules, learning good things for our lives, and yet we can so easily overdo it. And I've encountered this over the years here and there where I met somebody that I thought was a very, very good person and they were overly concerned with yama niyama. And I had a student like this very recently, and so I told him the story about Lahiri Mashai. I told him about that unfolding sensitivity that comes from integrating with your subconscious material. And yet he seemed to have a preoccupation which was too much with the rules and the do's and the don'ts, and I'm not perfect. And so I explained to him, You're never going to be perfect. You're absolutely not going to be perfect. In fact, it is unhealthy to want and to try and be outwardly perfect, because what we're seeking in meditation is an interior absolute. It is not an exterior absolute. You will not find the absolute in the exterior. And that's the wonderful practice that the Buddhists have, where they will create this gorgeous mandala, right? You'll see this mandala that they painstakingly create with sand, and then they will blow it away in a ceremony. And it represents this impermanence to life. That impermanence also applies to our lives, that our attitudes and our own expression. We cannot be an absolute. We are impermanent and fallible creatures by nature. And so we want to be as good as we possibly can, and yet not be overly concerned with it. And that interior sensitivity will help to guide us naturally, as it naturally unfolds. Something that we did in the past, we may come to the road in the future and say, oh, I don't think I want to go through that again, because there are a chain of events that happen inside of me after I do that thing, and I don't want to go through that. And so that sensitivity will automatically guide you in your life. What is appropriate for you? So I told that to my student, and then right after that, I found this wonderful quote from Jung. I want to share it with you. We do not feel quite right when we are behaving perfectly. We feel much better when we are doing a bit of wrong. That is because we are not perfect. The Hindus, when they build a temple, leave one corner unfinished. Only the gods make something perfect. Man never can. It is much better to know that one is not perfect, then one feels much better. That's from Jung. Isn't that great? And I know exactly what he's talking about. I had a new car for the very first time some years ago, and it made me very nervous. I was very conscious, overly conscious. This was a brand new car, and I better not do anything bad. And I was kind of getting like this every time that I drove the car. And then it got a scratch. I don't even remember how it got a scratch, but it was a tiny little scratch right along the back fender. And I came out and I saw that scratch, and instead of being upset, my brand new car was scratched, I was absolutely relieved, and I felt like this nervous tension fall right off of me. And now I don't have to worry, because the car is already scratched. It's not perfect anymore, and I don't have to have that nervous energy. And so we can do that in our own lives. That, for example, this student of mine is a very good person. I know he's an absolutely great person because of some of the things that he's told me and some of the actions that he's done. And I know he's good with his family. So I know he's very much a good person, and yet he was overly concerned with being perfect, and we just can't be perfect. So you have to let that perfection fall away. I tend to be very relaxed and non-judgmental with my students, and so it helps them very much to relax. And yet sometimes we need to learn and understand this principle that we don't need to be perfect in this outer world. It's an impossibility. You just can't do it. So the absolute is not outside, it's actually inside. That's where you're going to go into the non-dual state, which is a perfect state. And you'll know it because you'll feel glorious. As that sensitivity continues to unfold, we may find things in ourselves which we are not happy with. And sometimes, I do all these therapies which are a quick fix, like NLP and timeline therapy. They often work very quickly. And yet sometimes there are some things that we just need time to unravel. And so one of the greatest things that we can do with that kind of an issue in ourselves or in our lives, whatever it might be, is to write about it. So every day you write down what happened. And sometimes you write these things down. It's like, oh, this is kind of ugly. I don't like it very much. I don't like this process. But the attitude ought to be like when I find a negative emotion with a client who is doing timeline therapy. So I've been doing so much timeline therapy, I'm not scared of negative emotions. And so they tell me, oh my God, I have this huge anger. I'm like, can you feel that anger right now? And they go, yes. And I go, yes, great. Okay, now we can deal with this. So I get very enthused about the bad stuff, because once we recognize and connect with the bad stuff, and it's okay to let it go with our unconscious mind, then it gets quite easy to dig it out. And so when you write down this, whatever it is that's bothering you, you're bringing it more and more into the conscious mind. So if it's a deep pattern from childhood, or a deep pattern that we picked up from our parents perhaps, then when it's very, very deep, it can be very, very subconscious. It's not easy for us to pick it apart and how it's working and to see it coming. And so you'll go through the whole action, and then you'll look back and go, oh my God, what did I just do? Because you were running on autopilot, right? Just like going down the freeway and you miss your exit because you're just driving, you're not actually there. You're on autopilot. So it's the same kind of thing. Writing down what happened and how it happened every day in a little diary just on that issue can help to draw that subconscious material into the conscious mind. So the next time you'll drive right up to the exit and go, oh my God, there's my exit. And maybe you'll still miss it, right? So maybe you'll still go through the action even though you saw it right at the beginning of it. But the next time you keep writing that down, and the next time you'll see it before the exit comes, right? You'll see the action coming that you're not comfortable with anymore. You'll see it coming, it's in your conscious mind, and you'll go, oh, I have time to retrace my steps. I have time to pull back from this action. I don't have to go through it. And that's all a process of taking something which is in the subconscious and bringing it up into the conscious mind, into conscious awareness, where we have choice and we can decide, I don't want to go down that path because I've already been down there a million times.
Please, Neo, you have to trust me.
Why?
Because you have been down there, Neo. You know that road. You know exactly where it ends. And I know that's not where you want to be.
So this emerging sensitivity that we get from meditation is extremely profound, because it's only from that deep integration with the slower brain waves that we begin to mirror the higher brain waves of the gamma. So we first begin to get into those slower brain waves, and then bit by bit we integrate with those brain waves. And then from that place, we can begin to see more clearly the gamma or higher brainwaves. There's more brainwaves in there that we don't even know, because we're not able to put devices deep inside the brain without surgery. So there's a lot going on that we don't know. But what we do know is that these slower brainwaves are absolutely necessary. And it's the higher gamma brainwaves that usually activate when we're in a very profound experience. And so it's only by integrating with that subconscious material, becoming more and more sensitive, as Lahiri Mashai suggested was happening with his Kriya Yoga. By doing that, with the heart rate variability resonant breathing as an example, integrating with the subconscious material makes us more sensitive, gives us more of a capacity to actively reflect what is coming from the higher self. So the sensitivity is profound, and it's taking us to a very profound place. So I hope you loved this. If you did, be sure to hit that bell down below so I can see all of you next time.